They were both very visibly upset that they had to do this to Jake because, I mean, they loved him as a player and as a person, and this was an extremely difficult choice for them.
Well, then why did they do it? You know, if they, well, I guess they feel like they had to. Do you think that it was their decision? Was it Marty Herney's and John Fox's decision, or do you think someone, let's say, foisted it upon them?
No, I think it was their decision. Jerry Richardson is obviously very involved in what they do, and Marty actually said that near the end of the press conference, that they keep him apprised of everything that they're discussing and everything that they want to do, and he was just as involved in this decision as he was every other decision they've made. But no, I think they said it had absolutely nothing to do with the financials, absolutely nothing, that it was purely, they just figured at this point, at some point he was going to have to go, and they figured now is the time to do it, and they were going to go with Matt Moore and give him the opportunity. They really emphasize the youth movement. They feel like they've got a lot of young players on this team who need the opportunity and deserve the opportunity to step up and be starters.
Well, you know, youth is another way of saying cheaper, is what it is. Youth in the NFL costs less than some of the older guys.
Not all of them.
All right, so the youth movement. All right. So what's Muhsin Muhammad doing today? How's he feeling? Is he next? Who's next? Where does the youth movement stop? Who else is John Casey? Is John Casey done? Is he the next to go?
I doubt that. No, they're not doing a wholesale cleaning house, and they emphasize that as well. This is not a fire sale. If you look at the list, I brought my notes in here from the press conference. If you look at the list, obviously Jake, that whole scenario was just a catastrophe. A lot of these guys, though, were either injured or due a lot of money. Maka Kimawatu was injured. You know, he had the surgery on his Achilles and has had some setbacks from that. So, you know, an older guy, so bye-bye to him. They feel like they've got guys to take his place. Damian Lewis, I think, was more of a financial situation. Landon Johnson, they had brought him in a couple years ago, and he never really panned out to what they thought it was going to be. And I was surprised Niall Diggs, but he was injured at the end of the year last year, and they had the younger guys, Dan Connors, and those guys step up and played fine at the end of the season. So they're like, okay, well, they did it at the end of the season. What's to say they can't, you know, step into a full-time starter role? So I think that's a lot of their logic behind it, besides the monetary stuff. So and they have a lot of young guys they do have to pay a lot of money to here coming up in the next couple of years that they've got to try and wrap up.
So what are they going to do in addition to Matt Moore? I mean, they can't, even if they think he's going to be their guy or that's where they're going to start, at this point, they've got nobody else, do they?
No, they don't, unless they would try to re-sign Luke McCown or Josh McCown, whichever one of the McCowns we have here. I don't think they'll do that. He was hurt last year. I think that they're going to probably try to draft somebody. Coach Fox said he would like, or he's more comfortable having an older veteran guy in the mix, and he made it pretty clear that they would probably be bringing somebody in. Obviously, you've got to bring some more folks in.
Vinny Testaverde! Vinny's coming back!
No.
Somebody emailed me that earlier. Vinny's coming back!
No.
That'll be awesome.
I don't think Vinny will be
What about Michael Vick? What about Michael Vick?
That name never even came up, and I doubt you'll ever hear that name past Jerry Richardson's lips.
Really?
Or certainly never write a check to him.
Did you think you'd hear them just kicking Jake out the door?
No, that was a stunner to me, to a lot of people. That was very, very surprising. And the way that Marty and John were acting, it's like I don't think they still believe what they've done. So I mean, it was tough. So it was very tough.
Well, if they can surprise people by kicking Jake to the curb, why can't they surprise people by giving Michael Vick a shot?
Because I think that the Jake Delhomme decision was more. That's a football decision, and if they decided they needed to go with Matt Moore, blah blah. The not taking Michael Vick would definitely, I think, be a Jerry Richardson decision where he'd be like, absolutely no way, we're not going to bring a guy like this into our organization. That's my opinion, but who knows? I mean, no, I'm sure that Coach Fox, if Michael Vick didn't have all those strings attached to him, would love to have a guy like Michael Vick on the football team. Most coaches would, but he comes with a little too much baggage that the Panthers normally don't carry players like that.
Michael Vick without baggage is Armani Edwards from App State. That's Michael Vick.
Never know.
That's Michael Vick. He's a little younger.
Might be a bit of a stretch.
And he's a little even smaller.
Yeah.
But he's that kind of player.
Hey, see, and they emphasized once again going to the draft that they want to develop young players, and they've had a lot of success doing that, and they've had a lot of great players come that way. So you never know.
Who do we have returning punts right now?
Well, that's going to be a toss-up once again. I mean, probably Captain Munnerlyn would be back in. I mean, it depends on who they bring back, So
Armani Edwards could return punts or kickoffs. He could be a receiver. He could run the little wildcat thing.
Yeah.
He runs like crazy. And then when they need somebody to step in and throw the football, he could do that. So this is what it'll be. It'll be Matt Moore, and alongside him, they're going to have Armani Edwards and Vinny Testaverde.
Sounds like a great lineup to me.
This is what's happening. I don't know how much you want to get into this, but it just seems to me like there is something not right at the business end of the football operations side of the Carolina Panthers, to me. To be doing things like extending Jake's contract just last year, just a year ago, wrapping up tens of millions more dollars in this guy, a guy who, a season later, you can decide not only is he not your number one, but you're going to kick him to the curb even being on the hook for all of that money. And to have a coach year on the contract, a lot of these, there's something in this just does not add up to me.
Well, Marty Herney basically addressed that situation with the signing him to the big contract last year and then, cutting him just a year later. And he said everything that they do, they base it at the time on what is best for their football team. A year ago, they thought, okay, Jake Delhomme has led us to a 12-4 regular season record, had a blow up in a postseason game that was very unlike him, and they determined that the best thing for the football team at that time was to lock Jake up into a long-term contract, just like they had signed Julius Peppers or tendered him and paid him inordinate amounts of money to play for one season. They thought that was the best thing they could do for the football team at that point.
And that's a genius move, too. They end up paying him more than $20 million. Julius had a nice Pro Bowl season. It's going to land him in Chicago. But what did it do for the Panthers? They still didn't make the playoffs. I mean, that $20 million bottom line didn't pay off.
You certainly can't blame all that on Julius. He did some phenomenal.
I'm not blaming Julius.
I was listening to NFL radio yesterday, actually, and they were talking about he was worth every penny of that to be paid last year.
I'm not blaming Julius.
It's interesting who you talk to.
I'm talking about the management money decisions of it. And Marty Herney can say all he wants. We just make the best football decision for today. But if you're Jerry Richardson, if you're the owner of a team, at some point, decisions from year to year to year have to add up and make some sense money-wise.
Right. And the goal of signing Julius or tendering Julius at that point was to sign him to a long-term contract. They had no intentions of having him rent a player for a year thing, and they were trying to do that. And I haven't seen anything locally, but I did hear yesterday supposedly that they had offered him a $14 million a year contract, and that he turned that down before they decided to release him. Now, this was, like I said, I was hearing this on NFL radio yesterday.
Chicago's thrilled to be getting him. Lovie Smith, the Chicago papers say Lovie Smith flew to Charlotte yesterday, and they grabbed Julius, and they're flying him back up there today. They want to make sure nobody else gets him. Literally.
He's a phenomenal athlete. He's a phenomenal athlete. Great football player.
And he just happens to be athlete. A Tar Heel. I know.
Where Charlotte comes to talk.
Sharon Thorsland, thanks a bunch. Good luck in the NIT, by the way. 704-570-1110. We'll take a couple of more calls.
Talking through the day now with Keith Larson. Talk through the night starting at 9 with Pete Callender on News Talk 1110 WBT.
WBT Time Saver Traffic brought to you by Bojangles' famous chicken and biscuits. Right now, no collisions reported blocking travel lane 77, 85, or 45. Construction, though, scheduled to narrow a lane 45 outer loop at Highway 51, exit 64 until 1 o'clock this afternoon. In the Uptown and Accident 5th at Graham. Celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Southern Spring Home and Garden Show. Now through the 7th at the park. Go to southernshows.com for all the details. Traffic and weather together every 10 minutes in the 10s during Charlotte's Morning News. Chris Stowe, News Talk 1110 WBT Time Saver Traffic.
Accountable.
You can't add a couple of Republican sprinkles.
The Republican legislation does not.
Leadership, not partisanship.
What happens next happens here.
Make your voice heard.
News Talk 1110 WBT.
Okay, wait a minute here. We're all flustered now. See, I did wonder. But you don't say anything. Didn't we talk about this once? Whether you say something or whether you don't say something?
You don't say something.
And you don't say anything. But you wonder, right? And we saw Sharon, and you wonder. And so then as she's walking out the room, she says, and by the way, just in case it's that you're afraid to ask, yes, I am pregnant again. Sharon Thorsland said. So I'm glad she said that, because I didn't have to wonder then if it was... But that's great. Congratulations, Sharon.
3, 2, 1.
All right, Matthew's Fun Machines, my partner in... Oh, did I mention that we're going to be opening the registration page for Ride for the Kids 8 coming up in just a few minutes on the Larson page at WBT.com? Yeah, we are.